For 50 years, the old wooden box remained tightly locked in the darkest corner of the attic. Then, one rainy evening, it was finally opened. Everyone in the village always whispered about the grand, creaking Victorian house on the edge of town, but they had absolutely no idea what profound secrets were quietly gathering dust in its shadows. When a heartbroken young woman accidentally discovered a tiny silver key hidden inside a shattered vase, she unknowingly unlocked a breathtaking mystery that would change her entire family's destiny forever. Welcome in, my dear friends. Come close to the fire, settle into your favorite comfortable chair, and let the gentle warmth of the hearth chase away the chill of the world outside. If you enjoy stories that warm the heart and leave you with a valuable lesson, subscribe to Nanny Grannys Golden Tales and become part of our storytelling family. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love reading every comment. Our story today begins with a bright but deeply troubled young woman named Maya. Maya had recently moved back into that sprawling, peeling Victorian house to care for her aging grandmother, Evelyn. Maya was carrying a very heavy burden in her heart. She had spent her entire life dreaming of becoming a master architect, drawing beautiful buildings and sketching grand designs. But after a devastating series of harsh rejections from prestigious firms and a failed independent project that left her entirely bankrupt, Maya had convinced herself that she was a complete failure. She had bitterly packed away her expensive drafting pencils, her sketch pads, and her blueprints. She walked through her days feeling lost, stripped of her identity, and disconnected from her purpose. Her grandmother, Evelyn, was the pillar of their family. She was a gentle, loving woman who baked warm bread for neighbors and always possessed a kind smile. But time had begun to catch up with dear Evelyn. Her steps were painfully slow, and the steep wooden stairs to the second floor had become too much for her fragile bones to manage. One relentlessly stormy afternoon, while heavy rain lashed fiercely against the parlor window panes and the wind howled through the eaves, Evelyn asked Maya to go up to the attic. "We need to clear out some space up there, my sweet girl," Evelyn said, her voice fragile but firm. "There are boxes that haven't seen the light of day in decades. It is time to let go of the past." Maya silently climbed the narrow, groaning staircase. The attic was a massive, cavernous space, smelling richly of dry cedar wood, mothballs, and aged paper. It was filled to the brim with the collected memories of a long life. But despite the overwhelming clutter, Maya's eyes were immediately drawn to the far corner, nestled beneath a small, round window. There sat a beautiful, heavy mahogany chest, wrapped tightly in a thick iron chain and secured by a massive, rusted padlock. Maya remembered Evelyn telling her years ago that the box held things from another lifetime, a lifetime firmly closed and never to be reopened. Maya approached the box reverently, brushing away a thick layer of dust. As she leaned over, her elbow accidentally clipped an old ceramic vase on a nearby table. The vase crashed to the floorboards, shattering instantly. Maya gasped and knelt down to gather the broken pieces. But as she swept the shards into her palm, she noticed something gleaming softly in the dim light. Resting perfectly amidst the dust was a small, ornate silver key. Maya's heart raced wildly. She looked from the tiny silver key to the heavy brass padlock. She cautiously inserted the key into the rusted lock. It ground against half a century of rust, but with a firm twist, she heard a loud, satisfying click. The lock popped open, and the heavy iron chain slid away, clattering loudly onto the floorboards. Maya hesitated. She knew her grandmother had kept this sealed for a reason. Deciding she couldn't open it alone, she gathered the heavy box in her arms and carefully carried it down the narrow stairs straight into the living room where her grandmother sat quietly by the crackling fireplace. When Evelyn saw the carved wooden box resting in Maya's arms, the color drained entirely from her wrinkled face. She gripped her chair so tightly her knuckles turned white. "Where did you find the key to that?" she whispered, her voice trembling like a dry autumn leaf. "It was hidden inside an old vase in the attic, Grandma," Maya explained gently, setting the chest on the coffee table. "I accidentally broke the vase and the key fell out. I tested the lock, but I promise I haven't looked inside." Evelyn stared blankly at the dark box for a long, silent moment. The warm firelight danced across the mahogany wood. A shining tear slowly tracked down Evelyn's weathered cheek. 50 years, she murmured softly. 50 long years I have kept this locked away in the dark. Maya knelt beside the chair, taking her grandmother's frail hand. "You don't have to open it, Grandma. We can throw the key away." Evelyn deliberately shook her head. "No, my sweet girl. You finding that key today wasn't an accident. The universe has a way of bringing the truth to the surface when it is meant to be seen. It is time." Evelyn reached out with trembling hands and placed her fingers on the heavy lid. With a soft creak of rusted hinges, she pushed it backward. Instantly, a powerful scent filled the room: dried lavender, aged parchment, and a sharp hint of oil paint. Maya leaned in close. Evelyn carefully pulled back a piece of faded blue silk covering the top. Sitting perfectly preserved was a single, fully dried white rose, its petals brittle and yellowed. Beside it lay a thick bundle of letters tied with brown twine. Evelyn picked up the dried rose, cradling it with heartbreaking gentleness. "This white rose," Evelyn began, her voice thick with emotion, "was given to me by a fiercely talented young man named Arthur. He was the love of my youth, Maya. He had a brilliant smile and a spirit so wild and free, he made me believe I could sprout wings and fly." Maya was stunned. She had only ever known her grandfather Thomas, a practical and quiet man. She had never heard the name Arthur. "What happened to him, Grandma?" Maya asked softly. "Arthur was an exceptionally gifted artist," Evelyn explained, "and he believed with his whole heart that I was one too. In the spring of 1974, we made grand plans. We had both been accepted into a highly prestigious Academy of Fine Arts in Paris. We were going to run away together, paint the world, and live for beauty and creation." The fire popped loudly. Evelyn's nostalgic smile faded into a profound sorrow. But life rarely goes according to the beautiful blueprints we draw. Just 2 weeks before we were supposed to leave, my father fell incurably ill. My family had absolutely nothing. My mother was sickly, and I had 3 young siblings who needed to be fed and clothed. Evelyn set the delicate rose down. I had to make a soul-crushing choice. I could selfishly follow my heart to Paris, or I could stay behind, work at the dusty textile mill, and keep my family from starving. Maya felt a hard lump form in her throat. "You stayed," she whispered. I stayed, Evelyn confirmed, a heavy tear falling to her lap. I broke Arthur's beautiful heart, and I shattered my own. I told him to go to Paris and paint enough beautiful things for the both of us. He went, and he faithfully sent me these letters every single week for 3 years. She pointed to the bundle of envelopes. I never opened a single one. I knew if I saw the magnificent life he was living, my resolve would break. So I locked his words in this box. Hello again, my wonderful friends. I hope you are enjoying our quiet time together by the fire. If you're enjoying this story so far, please take a moment to like the video. It helps these stories reach more people who need a little inspiration today. Now, let us quickly return to Maya and Evelyn, for the deepest secrets of the box have yet to be revealed. Maya was completely speechless. Her grandmother had given up her true love and her burning passion to ensure her family's survival. But Grandma, what about your own art? Evelyn offered a deeply wistful smile. She reached deeper into the wooden box and pulled out a massive, heavy book bound in worn, dark brown leather. She handed it to Maya. Open it, child. Maya took the heavy book. She carefully opened the thick cover and gasped. The textured pages were completely filled with the most extraordinary, breathtaking architectural sketches and charcoal drawings Maya had ever seen. There were intricate designs of soaring Gothic cathedrals, bustling streetscapes, and sweeping bridges that seemed to defy gravity. The sheer talent radiating from the pages was staggering and utterly brilliant. Grandma, Maya breathed, these are absolute masterpieces. You drew every single one of these? Why did you never tell anyone? Because looking at them simply hurt far too much, Evelyn admitted quietly. When I chose to stay behind, I had to lock away that creative part of myself, or the grief would surely kill me. I eventually married your grandfather, Thomas. He provided a safe home, but he didn't understand the fire that lives inside an artist. So I put my cherished sketchbooks and Arthur's unopened letters into this box, locked it tightly, and made a solemn vow never to look back. Maya sat frozen on the parlor floor. Here she was, ready to completely give up on her own grand architectural dreams just because of a few professional setbacks. Meanwhile, the quiet woman sitting in front of her had possessed a rare talent brighter than a diamond, yet had willingly buried it in the dark to save the people she loved. Maya felt a burning shame for her own recent self-pity. There is just one more very important thing left in the box, Maya, Evelyn said, her voice growing stronger with quiet anticipation. Reach your hands all the way down to the very bottom. Feel beneath the red velvet lining. Maya set the priceless sketchbook aside. She reached deep into the chest, her fingers brushing the soft texture of aged red velvet. She found a hidden seam and pulled gently upward. The entire velvet lining lifted away, revealing a cleverly hidden compartment beneath the floor of the trunk. Resting inside lay a long, slender wooden case, polished to a high shine, and a single sealed white envelope. Written boldly across the front of the envelope in sweeping calligraphy were the words, "To the future artist of this family." Maya's breath hitched. She looked up at her frail grandmother with intense wonder. Evelyn nodded, a truly beautiful, peaceful smile breaking through the decades of stored sorrow. "Open it, my darling girl. It is for you. I didn't know your name when I wrote it, but it has always been for you." Maya's hands shook as she broke the red wax seal. She unfolded the crisp parchment and began to read aloud, her voice wavering with emotion. My dearest one, if you are reading this letter, you have finally found the silver key. I do not know your name yet, but I know your soul intimately. I know that somewhere in our family's future, the burning fire of creation will inevitably ignite once more. Maya paused, wiping a warm tear from her pale cheek. She took a deep breath and continued reading. I locked this box away half a century ago, out of desperate preservation. I securely locked my grandest dreams in here, so they would not die in the harsh daylight, but sleep safely in the dark, waiting for the day when someone with my blood could carry them into the light. If you hold this letter, you are the master architect of your own destiny. Maya choked on a heavy sob. She blinked away her tears to read the final paragraph. I beg of you, do not let the inevitable harshness of the world extinguish your brilliant light. Brutal rejections and painful failures are merely the dark shadows required to give a beautiful painting true depth. In the wooden case beneath this letter, you will find my finest drafting tools. I give them freely to you because I believe in you. Build beautiful things, and promise me you will never lock your precious gifts away in the dark. With all my eternal love, your grandmother, Evelyn. Maya slowly lowered the parchment letter, crying freely now. The tears washed away months of bitter anger and crippling self-doubt. She opened the slender wooden case. Inside, resting perfectly on a bed of faded red satin, was a complete set of the most exquisite vintage drafting tools. There were solid brass compasses, silver mechanical pencils, and beautifully straight rulers carved from dark ebony wood. They were entirely pristine, waiting patiently in the dark for 50 long years, waiting solely for Maya. Maya looked up at Evelyn, who was watching her with an expression of profound, unconditional love and immense relief. The heavy burden of silent regret had vanished entirely from Evelyn's face. I never wasted my life, Maya, Evelyn said softly, touching Maya's wet cheek. My ultimate masterpiece wasn't a soaring stone building in Paris. My greatest masterpiece is sitting right here in front of me, holding my pencils. You are my greatest creation. Maya threw her arms passionately around her grandmother's neck. They sat closely by the fire for a very long time, 2 generations connected by a beautifully shared sorrow and a newly discovered hope. The very next morning, the fierce storm had finally passed. Maya woke up feeling a bright, intensely burning spark of pure inspiration. The crushing weight of dread was entirely gone. She walked downstairs, cleared the large oak dining table, and carefully lifted the vintage brass drafting tools from their satin bed. She brought down her blank sketch pads with a fierce, renewed sense of profound purpose. For the first time in over a year, Maya sat down and began to draw. She didn't attempt to draw a cold corporate building. She began to draw a beautifully warm house with a small round window nestled snugly in the attic. And beside it, she carefully drew a magnificent, highly detailed garden filled with blooming white roses. Over the next few weeks, Maya's entire demeanor completely changed. She spent her days sketching and designing endlessly. Evelyn would sit happily beside her, drinking chamomile tea and watching Maya's confident hands move across the paper. Evelyn finally opened the thick bundle of letters and read Arthur's poetic words aloud, weeping, gentle, healing tears of closure. Maya eventually took her stunning new portfolio and bravely applied to the intensely prestigious architectural firm that had cruelly rejected her 2 years prior. When she confidently walked into the boardroom, she carried the deeply rooted strength of her beloved grandmother. When the stern senior partners reviewed her new work, they were utterly captivated. They saw the profound depth, the raw emotion, and the undeniable resilience in her designs. Maya enthusiastically got the job on the spot. She was brought on to proudly lead an elite design team focusing entirely on restorative, community-focused architecture. Several highly successful years later, Maya stood proudly in front of a massive, beautifully designed community arts center in the beating heart of the city. It was a safe, vibrant place designed to give underprivileged youth totally free access to expensive art supplies and dedicated creative mentorship. The magnificent building was a true masterpiece of natural light and open space. As the city mayor cut the grand red ribbon, the crowd erupted into loud, joyous applause. Maya stood quietly to the side, wearing a simple blue dress. Carefully pinned right above her heart was a delicate, preserved, dried white rose encased in a tiny glass brooch. Evelyn had unfortunately passed away very peacefully the previous winter, surrounded warmly by her family. But Maya knew with absolute certainty that her dear grandmother was there with her. She could deeply feel Evelyn's immense pride radiating from the sturdy brick walls of the magnificent center. Above the grand main entrance, carved deeply into the smooth white stone, was the official name, the Evelyn Center for the Creative Arts. Beneath the large name was a simple, profound dedication. For the brave artists who sacrifice silently in the dark, so that others may create brilliantly in the light. My dear, wonderful friends, we so often look at the tightly closed boxes in our own lives, our painful failures, our sadly abandoned dreams, our deep personal sacrifices, and we mistakenly see them only as absolute dead ends. But life is much longer and far more beautifully mysterious than our minds can comprehend. Sometimes a beautiful dream delayed is not a dream permanently denied. Evelyn mistakenly thought she had permanently buried her incredible talent, but she had actually perfectly preserved it, safely passing the burning torch of her passion to a lost granddaughter who desperately needed it. Maya incorrectly thought her professional career was over, but it simply hadn't truly begun until she learned the real depth of human perseverance. We all eventually face difficult moments where we must choose between what we selfishly want and what is fundamentally right. We all experience heartbreaking failures that make us want to lock our passions away in a dark trunk forever. But always remember this vital truth. True passion and deep purpose can never really be destroyed. They merely wait patiently in the quiet, forgotten corners of our lives, waiting for the exact right moment and the right tiny silver key to bring them gloriously back into the light. And that, my dear friends, is exactly why a kind, giving heart and the immense courage to endure hardships are worth far more than all the gold in the world. Never be afraid to finally unlock the heavy, rusted boxes of your past, for you truly never know What pristine tools are waiting patiently inside to help you build your magnificent future? If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to Nanny Grannys Golden Tales for more timeless tales and endless wisdom. And tell me in the comments, what lesson did you learn from today's story?